Well, good morning, everyone. Gil had to take a bathroom break, so I'm up here. Boy, wouldn't he make a great governor of Virginia? I've been with Ken many times, and Ken is the real deal. In fact, we only put the real deal up here. We want you to see those guys and gals who are for real. And the next one who's coming to speak, our final speaker this morning, is the real deal as well. He has been a friend of mine since I arrived here in Washington over 9 years ago, worked with him closely as he was a part of the leadership team in the United States Senate. He is a man who rocked the political establishment with his run for the presidency this year. His campaign gave a powerful voice to value voters all across America, winning 11 states in the primary with over 3 million votes, including with the largest margin in my home state of Louisiana. The Washington Post said that Santorum was a Tea Party kind of guy before there was a Tea Party. He remains an untiring champion for the unborn, welfare reform, fiscal responsibility, marriage, a strong military, and he is a leader in U.S.-Israel relations. In June of 2012, he launched Patriot Voices, a community of Americans committed to promoting faith, family, and freedom. I've heard that somewhere before. And he added opportunity with a goal of recruiting 1 million members. As he comes to share, would you not just welcome him, but would you join me in thanking him for courageously carrying the torch for all value voters and leaving his mark on this presidential election cycle. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Rick Santorum.
Thank you. You're eating into my time. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. I just was with Tony less than a week ago. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina together at the First Baptist Church in Charlotte, and we had a I Pledge Sunday. I don't know how many of you participated in that at your church or at your home study, but we had a great turnout and a great audience across this country to encourage people of faith, people whose values align with the founding principles of our country, the founding values of our country, to pray. Number one, always number one, pray. Number two, prepare by registering to vote. And number three, participate by voting on Election Day. And so I just wanted to reemphasize that those who are out there across America who may be, just may not be happy or content with the way things are going in their lives or the country or their community, or they're looking at the candidates and it's such an acrimonious election as they all are these days, and maybe thinking about not participating. I would just encourage you all, if you heard the speeches of Governor Romney and Paul Ryan over these last couple of days, these are people who understand American values, they understand America, they understand the critical nature of this election, and the direction is going to go, frankly, one way or another in America after this election. If Obamacare is implemented, if the foreign policy of this president continues, we will live in a world and in a country that is fundamentally different than the one that we have lived in for the past, since World War II. There'll be a realignment in the world, and America and the values that built this country over 230 years will be very different that we hand off to our children. That's one of the reasons after the election, Karen and I, let me just say thanks to all of you on behalf of Karen and all the kids, just to thank you so much for all that you've done. To pray for me and to pray for our effort and to help us give voice to your voice. I said during the campaign that this is the most important election in the history of our country, and I do believe that. This is about who we are as Americans. And this president and this administration has a fundamentally different view of America than our founders and the Republican Party and conservatives. And after the election, after we dropped out of the race, I had a decision to make. Karen and I had a decision to make, and we prayed about, what should we do? It was a bruising race. But we kept coming back to that basic point that I made in every speech. This is the most important election in the history of our country. And it is so whether I'm on the ballot or not. And so we decided we could not sit on the sidelines. And so we formed an organization called Patriot Voices. Because the one thing I heard over and over on the campaign trail was, thank you for giving voice to us, to the values that we share. And so we wanted to go out and do that and talk about those basic issues that we talked about in the campaign and that Governor Romney is talking about in the campaign. I am so encouraged. I understand he even referenced my name in his speech on the video yesterday. And I'm so encouraged that Governor Romney has embraced some of the things that I campaigned upon, and that you across America have encouraged me to give voice to. He's giving voice to those things because he understands who we are. Mitt Romney understands America. He understands those values, and he shares those values. And that's why I'm excited to go out across this country as I have to support him, to make sure that he is the next president of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, this race has been about economics. That's what everybody wants to talk about, economics, economics. But as we've seen for the last few days, there's a lot more at stake in this country than just economics. And Governor Romney boldly went out and called this administration on their policies, their weak, lead from behind, appeasing policies against those who threaten us and our security. He stood up and called them what they were. This president has to take a share of the responsibility for what the Middle East looks like today because he helped structure it. He has systematically interacted with every country in that region. And every single one of those countries who had a hostile regime to the United States, who had a list of grievances against America, and would wrap themselves in victimhood about how America had been so wrong to them, this president has coddled and appeased. From Iran to Hamas and Hezbollah, he has coddled and appeased those who want to do us harm, and our allies, Israel, in particular, Israel harm. And those who were friends of the United States, Israel, the government in Egypt in particular, he has sided against them. He has turned their back on them. He has sent a very clear message to that area of the world. If you are a friend of the United States, you are on your own. If you are an enemy of the United States, let's talk. This president has decided that leading from behind is what he wants to do and that the role is for America. We have a president who believes that the American government can be no source for good in the world, and that the American government can be the only source for good in America. He doesn't believe in the business community. He doesn't believe in families and churches and communities. He believes in the power of the federal government to do more, to control more, to redistribute wealth, to require you to do things so all of us end up as equal. That's the power of the federal, he believes in the federal government, but only when it applies to you. When it applies to the rest of the world, America has nothing to say. We need to just back off. We need to let things work out and let international organizations, who of course share our values, right? Let them be the arbiters. This is the future of America, of a declining power and influence around the world, and declining economically, culturally in this country because of an oppressive government, run by someone who believes he doesn't have to pay attention to the will of the people, the Constitution, or the laws of this country. We have a president who has acted in contravention to our laws and to our Constitution repeatedly and gets away with it. He gets away with it in part because the media, of course, they agree with him, so they're not going to call him on abuse of power if they like the abuse. Be careful. Because there may be a day once this pattern of presidential authority is established that you may have a president who doesn't do what you want them to do. The most recent example of presidential power, abuse of power, had to do with something I'm very familiar with, which is welfare reform. This president went out and issued a waiver to the work requirements in welfare. Now let me tell you, go read that bill. I helped draft it. I managed that bill on the floor of the United States Senate. That bill specifically says, and congressional intent was crystal clear, you could not, no president, no secretary of health could ever waive that requirement because we understood, as Governor Romney talked about yesterday, that if you want to pull yourself out of poverty, if you want to reach for the sky and grab the American dream in America, that one of the things you had to do was to work and get a full-time job. And the best way to learn how to work is to work. And so we put a requirement for work. And we said, no, you cannot touch that requirement. This president did what the law says he cannot do. He acted like an emperor, not a president. And when that happens, we will no longer be a republic. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an opportunity in this election to go out and give voice to the millions of Americans who are out there who see America declining in influence around the world. Remember, this president was going to part the oceans and people were going to love us all over. He got a Nobel Peace Prize before he was even in office, I think. Everybody was going to love us. Name one country where our stature is higher today than it was 4 years ago. Name one country where respect for America is higher than it was. Not amount of, well, I'll challenge that one too. The fact of the matter is, we are weaker around the world. We are less safe as a result because we have created a vacuum and we are seeing it is being filled, and it's not being filled by people that we want to have fill it. And we are weaker here at home. We just saw a rating agency now downgrade today American credit to A, from A plus to AA minus, as the Fed continues to pump money that we don't have to buy up mortgages, quantitative easing 3, trying to prop up the economy, prop up the markets in anticipation of this election. Don't be fooled. This economy is not doing well because we have a president who doesn't understand how the economy works It works when you work, not when people in Washington are working. We understand here in America that the basic values of our country are key for the success of our country. We have to live them, not just in our own lives, but we have to live them in our communities, in our government. The basic things that made America work are in our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We have a president who doesn't talk about those things and ignores them. We have a candidate for president on the Republican side, Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, who get the basic value structure of our country. They understand that rights do not come from the government. When Barack Obama and the left go out and tell you about all the rights they're going to give you, all the things they're going to take care of, understand when government gives you a right, they can take that right away, and as we saw with the HHS regs, they can tell you how to exercise that right and force you to do things that are against your conscience and your religion. Mitt Romney is not running around this country promising you all the things that government can do, because he understands that America was built as a great country from the bottom up, not from the top down. And he understands those basic core values of God-given rights and free people who can organize in families, in businesses, in communities, and local and civic organizations, and build a good and just society. We did that, and we changed the world in America. We did it. It worked. That's the beauty of conservatism. What conservatism means is a stewardship of our inheritance, of what our ancestors gave us. They gave us a model that worked. They gave us a model that transformed the world. When America was founded, life expectancy in the world was about 35 to 40 years of age, which it was at the time of Christ. We were an agricultural economy, which is what it was at the time of Jesus Christ. And in 200 years, America happened to the world. Our basic value structure and principles applied here in this country and copied in other places around the world, less perfectly than here, but still copied. Took life expectancy from 35 to 80. Took us to an industrial revolution, a technology revolution. I don't even know what kind of revolution we're in right now. We seem to be creating dynamism in the marketplace like it's never been seen. Why? Freedom. Freedom. Not government dictates. Not planners who are going to invest in solar energy companies and tell us what our future is going to be by some bureaucrat making those decisions. No. No, we're going to trust you. That's why the media doesn't go along with us. You have to understand that. They don't like conservatism. They like the other side. Not necessarily, I would argue, because they necessarily agree with them. It's because they can influence the country more. You see, if just a few people make decisions about what this world looks like and what this country looks like, well, then you can have people sitting in offices, the major media outlets and in Hollywood, they can deal with a small group of people and influencing them and getting them to jump through the hoops they want to. It's much harder if all of you collectively build America. It's much harder to influence you. We will never have the media on our side, ever, in this country. We will never have the elite, smart people on our side because they believe they should have the power to tell you what to do. So our colleges and universities, they're not going to be on our side. The conservative movement will always be, and that's why we founded Patriot Voices. The basic premise of America and American values will always be sustained through two institutions: the church and the family. And so economic conservatives and libertarian types can say, oh, well, we don't want to talk about the social issues. Without the church and the family, there is no conservative movement, there is no basic values in America enforced, and there is no future for our country. So it is our job in this election. It is our job to go out and make a difference. It is our job to go out and talk to fellow believers. And I don't mean Christians. I mean fellow believers in the American creed. Fellow believers in those basic principles that built our country. Go out and preach to them the American ethic. Preach to them what made us great. And remind them that that greatness does not lie in Washington, D.C. or in the hands of a president. It lies in each and every one of us and in our families. I'm excited because I think we have a nominee who understands that. I didn't see it, but I read the transcript of what Governor Romney said here. I could have given that speech. I feel good. I feel good. We have to do our part. So I encourage each and every one of you to leave here energized. It is our watch. At the end of the Declaration of Independence, we all know those words. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are, we know these words that we mutually pledge to each other. Our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. I have a video coming out, we're launching on Monday, called Our Sacred Honor, that talks about our founding principles, that talks about who we are as a country, our Declaration, our Constitution, an educational tool, and hopefully an inspiration for others. We need to mutually pledge to each other. Look at the person on either side of you. Pledge to them that over the next month and a half, in our watch in America, that we will do what God has called us to do. This is the most important election you will ever be involved in. I know a lot of people are anxious. A lot of people are concerned about the future of this country. I feel blessed. I feel blessed to be here at a time when our country needs us. And so please go out. Do everything you can for Governor Romney, for Paul Ryan, for your senators, for your congressmen. And you will win a great victory for freedom and for our great country. Thank you and God bless.